Hello, everyone, everywhere. This is Bob Thibodeau with the Kingdom Crossroads podcast, and you are listening to the Going North podcast with my good friend Don Brightman. Be sure to subscribe to his podcast so you will not miss any of the upcoming episodes, and be blessed in all that you do.
And today on the Going North podcast, we bring you some fabulous humans from across the globe. Today's no different. Because we got another returning guest, baby. We got another returning guest. And this is the era of the guests who came back once again because they're still alive and well and doing some great things on the planet known as Earth. Yes, indeed. And today's author, my goodness, award-winning author, local author in the land of charm, crime, and crabs, Baltimore, Maryland. My man is on track to get another degree on top of all the degrees he had. Not only that, has a brand new book out, a book on poetry. Hashtag Black Prince Magic, and that kind of gave it away already. Mr. Author of the Year from the Newsome Awards from 2019, looking to do a 2 for 2 in 2020. Let's give it up for Nelson Brown, baby. How you feeling?
Hi, Dom. I'm feeling great. I'm definitely glad to have the opportunity to speak to you about all of the amazing things that I have in store and things that I have to share with all the listeners. I know it's been a while since we've spoken to each other, but I'm definitely glad that I get to speak with all of the listeners. In the midst of everything that's happening, in the world, I can definitely take everybody's mind off of everything that's happening with all of the great things I have to share with everyone. I have my second book, and I have a third book in the making, and a fourth book in the making, and I have my radio show to discuss. But I'm definitely, I'm glad to be here again. I know it's been a while since I've talked to you.
Hey, it's all good, man. Ain't nothing new. That's how life goes sometimes, because when you take breaks from one another, some things never change for the good of the people. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's kind of like that good friend that you rarely see, but it's like when you reconnect, it's like you didn't miss anything. You just continue where you left off. It's one of those
Right.
good feelings. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So my man, hashtag Black Prince Magic, aka Prince of Vulnerability, man, got this new book. So tell folks about this new book, man. My man has got the poetry book now. Last time it was in the works. This time it's no longer in the works. It is out on the shelves, digital and physical, man.
Yes, it is. The second book in my book series. It was released near Valentine's Day in February. It's called The Beauty in Us, Vulnerable Masculinity. And you kind of already given some of the poems away, the titles of some of the poems away, but this book was I definitely poured a lot of myself into the second book. It's been a lot has transpired and a lot has shifted since my first book was released back in 2018. That's when I first introduced myself to all of your listeners back in 2018. Like in the fall of 2018, that's when I first started. And that's when, like I said, I introduced myself to the world. In August of 2018, I released my first book called The Beauty in Us, Our Reality, and it was a memoir about how I struggled with my self-image growing up. And I gave myself an opportunity to introduce myself to everyone, all of my readers, all of the people that follow my work, and everyone else that I've been able to network with. But now, with the second book, I shifted gears a little bit, and I decided to create a book of poetry because I wanted to exercise that creative muscle, and I wanted to take a deeper and much more broad approach in my ministry and in the work I do as it pertains to helping boys and young men create a healthier self-image. So in the book of poetry, there are a lot of thought-provoking poems that I wrote in the book, and this was I wrote all of these. It took almost 2 years to create the second book. I started um, I started the second book immediately after, probably a couple months after the first one was released. And I talked about all of my flaws and insecurities, and I laid them out on the table. And I just wanted to give all of the readers an opportunity to just see how healthy it can be for men and boys young men and boys to share their vulnerabilities and to just lay their hearts out on the table. And that's what I managed to do in book number 2. So a lot of the topics that correlate throughout the duration of the book include faith. A lot has to deal with self reflection, mental illness, forgiveness, and independence, and all of the things that I feel as though young men struggle with in my peer group. Because when you're in your early 20s, like I said, in my peer group in our early 20s, we're still in the process of trying to establish ourselves, and we're trying to build our lives, and we are still trying to find our place. A lot of us are still trying to find our place in the world, and a lot of us have a difficult time doing that. And a lot of the childhood scars begin to resurface in your late teens and early 20s. And I definitely think that this second book definitely makes the statement, and it addresses a lot of the things that I feel as though have to be implemented into a young man's life to help him throughout his journey in adulthood. And I'm not sure, and I know you said that you read some of the poems and you looked at some of the material, and I know that it's deep. A lot of my readers, people who have already purchased the book, they said that the content was a lot deeper, and that's what I wanted. And it was supposed to be very thought provoking. I'm not sure. What did you think of the book so far? I'm not sure if you read all of it. You said that you've looked at some of them. You've read some of them, some of the material.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Read through some of it, and it was really interesting, especially towards the end piece where it even got to the taboo topics piece, because that that one caught my eye. Like, all right, I'm just gonna go ahead and do the whole hopscotch to the end and see what's going on, and it's actually true, because that's a lot of things that's going on nowadays. Is that especially now where in some circles they still try to keep things buried and hidden, but on the other hand, nowadays with social media and everything else, some things just can't be hidden anymore.
Yes, yes. So I'm not sure which poem stuck out to you, but a lot of the poems that I wrote, like I said, some of them are reflections of me and how I view myself, and some of them are just reflections of others and how I view them. And a lot of the topics that were addressed in the second book are, like you said, they're very taboo. Some of them deal with family values. Some of them deal with faith. Some of them talk about friendship, and some of them talk about unity. And it's just really, I think it's definitely helpful for young men, and I even think that ladies can learn a lot from this book as well, because it points out a lot of the qualities that they can find in a guy that they may not be able to in a sense pull out of, if that makes any sense, because a lot of times young men don't know how to communicate in a healthy manner, and a lot of times boys are taught to to display toughness and to swallow their levels of sensitivity when it comes to dealing with traumatic events, or when it comes to actually addressing how they truly feel in different circumstances, and they don't know how to accept help, or address that. So I definitely think that it's a lot, and I definitely talk about a lot of issues, especially in the Black community. From my perspective, being a young Black man, and how I've been able to embrace that even more and more, and how I've been managing to. I'm still fighting off a lot of youthful insecurities and self-esteem issues that I used to have, and I'm starting to embrace them a lot more. And like I said, um, I just decided to put my heart out on the table, and just I decided to be even more transparent and authentic. But there are poems that are even my favorite that I read over and over again. I keep a copy of both all my books and all my stuff so that I can look at it again, and so that I can reread it. I'm not sure. I mean, did you have any favorite poems or anything that stuck out to you that you have any questions about?
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I love the fact, because I got the ebook in front of me, where one of my favorite lines underlines that some of us even have family members who believe we are destined to fail, even though we will always prevail. And that one stuck out to me so much because it's kind of sad but true that a lot of times when you seek to do something that's out of the norm for your usual circle of influence, folks that you grew up around, like I'm pretty sure with yourself with writing both of your books, like you probably got a lot of pushbacks, like, "Hey, what you doing writing a book? Like, why are you writing two books? Like, what are you doing? It's like, shouldn't you just be going to school and getting your education? Like, why are you focusing on just on a writing on these books talking about vulnerable masculinity, like manhood and things like that? Just getting all that pushback. It's like that one kind of resonated with me a lot because it's pretty interesting. Because it's like sometimes strangers actually can be more friendly and more open to receiving you than your own family. Heck, even that even reminded me of Christ himself. It's like a prophet ain't even accepted in his own hometown when he came back during his ministry phase.
Right, and that's definitely and yeah, in that poem, the Black Prince Magic. It's not only the name of the poem, but it's also a name of the line of clothing that I released last fall. And I was just dropping hints on my social media platforms and to all of my readers about what the next book was going to be about. And hashtag Black Prince Magic was a hashtag that I created that celebrated young Black men and boys and their achievements. And I feel like we don't really have any hashtags that celebrate us. We don't really have any award shows or any media outlets that celebrate us specifically. Now you have Black Girl Magic that has been a hashtag for years, and you have Black Girls Rock, which is an award show on BET that celebrates Black women. But we don't really have anything that just celebrates Black men alone, especially young Black men, because of all of the stereotypes and all of the false narratives and personas that are out there. I think people often forget that we matter too and that we deserve unconditional love, support, and guidance as well. So me creating that hashtag and me creating that poem itself definitely sets the stage because nobody else has done that. I was looking throughout the media. I'm like, okay, nobody else is doing that. Because we have BET, we have TV One, we have Bounce, we have all of these quote unquote African American or Black channels that celebrate Black people, but but I was looking, at and even Essence Magazine or Ebony Magazine, all of these celebrate, you know, successful Black people. But I was looking, like I said, at Black Girls Rock. That's an award show that comes on BET, and I was like, okay, they celebrate Black women and their achievements. That's on BET. They have Black Girl Magic. Where do we fall in the mix? Just us alone, So that's my way of celebrating us, and that's the hashtag that I've been using for a while now. Ever since I thought about that while I was just sitting down and writing it, and I wrote that song. Well, not that song, but that poem uh, in less than 10 minutes, and it just fit every line. It just became easier, and I started to embrace myself even more and more while I was writing it. So those are my thoughts on that.
Sweet. My man said songs, my man. Future Truth and something here. You gonna be doing an R&B album, man?
No, it's just, but in the sense, poems are like songs in the sense of every form of art transcend into other forms. Um, I yeah, I think I'm going to do an audiobook in the future with some spoken word, but that's just about it.
Yeah, man, that's right. Cause cause when I was reading the song, I was like, all right, so my man needs to get in the spoken word or something, man, especially in like audio form with this one. Like, yeah, this is definitely one book my man needs to read right here. That's right. Just dig deep in and get that passion out there. Grab the mic and find that cadence and all the other good stuff. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, do you think you might go the spoken word route, similar to like a Seco Andrews, maybe?
So I'm open to doing spoken word, doing an audiobook. I know it's a little bit more time consuming, but it's definitely something that I'm going to consider in the near future, especially since I'm discussing topics that are still considered to be taboo. Some of the topics that I discuss are, especially in the Black community, that are taboo are like, for instance, a mental illness is a big thing that's very taboo. Um, in my book, because in the first book I talk about how I grew up grew up as being raised by a single mom and having an absent father that struggled with alcoholism and, substance abuse issues. And that's something that I do dive into. I do celebrate single moms that raise sons in this book. I do address absent fathers in this book as well. And I also talk about the ways in which how important it can be to find a good male mentor, somebody who's positive, someone who is very supportive and understanding. I talk about independence, what it means to definitely embrace your insecurities as you grow throughout your journey, and how important it is to just, you know, get, stop putting that barrier between you and what you're going after when it comes to pursuing your dreams and living your best life to its fullest, and how important it is to lean on faith. So these are some of the topics that are in the book of poetry. And this book is not as long as book number one, but I feel like the content is more deeper. Every time I look at certain poems, it definitely just, it really hits me. And I'm not just saying it because I wrote them, but I'm just saying it because, they're really thought provoking.
Yeah, true, and that's the thing with poetry as opposed to long form biography with stories, is because poetry is supposed to hit you deep and fast and quick, as opposed to just a longer winding road story. And it's great that actually putting that content together, and heck, even might even prefer this one over the first book because of that. And even going back to what you mentioned earlier, but the fact that there's really nothing out there for the young black boys out there, because it's like we're seen as evil growing up, because it's like no matter what the age is, especially with all the stuff in the food, and if they're growing a little faster than some of the other kids, we're seen as basically grown men get charged and thrown into prison as grown men because of the athletic build and all this other nonsense, when it's like, hey, like black boys need love too. It's like, yeah, black girls rock, they always do. Black girl magic, they always got the magic. It's like, hey, there's still gotta be love for the black boys too. Can't leave some of the good stuff out for the S's.
Yes, it's definitely something that I'm constantly thinking. I'm very innovative. I'm really goal oriented, and that is a blessing and a curse for me. And I say that with love, because sometimes, and I'm learning how to just appreciate the small achievements in my life and things I want to accomplish. But by me being very goal oriented and driven, I always look at the next big thing that I want to do or that I want to accomplish in order to better the lives of others. But now, since since I'm almost finished school, and since I'm getting ready to work full time at the Maryland, at a state department. Right now, I'm still working part time at the Maryland Department of the Environment while I'm attending college. But I'm definitely, because of my degree and because of my field and my career, I'm merging my careers in business and human services and in public health, and all into one career. So I'm definitely job hunting for a full-time job that I can make a career out of once it's all over. Me starting, I started working at when I was 17 at the Maryland Department of the Environment under the lead poisoning prevention program. So that definitely was a humbling experience for me. And I write about me being a young adult who's working and who's embracing independence and who's just growing more and more each day, just saving and investing for my future, just trying to be the best person that I can be and the most positive influence I can be, because that's what I feel like we all need, but we young black men especially need. So working, going to school, facilitating small groups at my church, at the Messiah Community Church, and just starting my radio show with Awesome God Radio this fall on September 8th from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Tuesday. I'm going to do that bi-weekly until the beginning of next year, so I can get adjusted to what it is to be that radio personality. And that just all of these platforms just give me an opportunity to just display transparency and to display authenticity and to discuss topics related to family values, which is a big problem in the inner city, or to discuss financial literacy, education, what it means to have a healthy dose of masculinity, and instead of displaying toxic masculinity, what it means to be mentally and physically healthy, what it means to be emotionally and spiritually healthy. So all of these things, I feel like to be they need to be discussed from a young black man's perspective. A young black man is actually a positive influence and that is making a difference and that's being the best that he can be. And because a lot of times when you're a radio personality, a lot of people think that having a radio show or having any type of platform or any position of authority or a level of power, a lot of people just think that is just a platform to use to their advantage to just vent about their frustrations or to vent about things that bother them. But a lot of people don't understand that when you're placed in positions of leadership or when you're supposed to be viewed as a role model or when you have a certain amount of influence, you have a huge responsibility on your hands. And a lot of people that's what gets a lot of people in trouble because you have to continue on your journey and you have to stick with your purpose and what you've been called to do. And that's where a lot of people make that mistake, and that's why I'm glad that I have this second book um, to show to even to show everybody that. And I talked to a class of fifth graders, and all of them wanted to read my book. They're all 10 and 11-year-olds, and they were all really impressed when I went to visit them at Montebello Elementary Middle School in Northeast Baltimore. And it was just easy. It was so fun talking to kids, and I like children, and I love talking to children. So because I definitely, it's almost like I can be a kid again because it just gives me an opportunity to speak with them and to just relate to them on that level. And since I'm not that much older than they are, they don't look at me as being a threat or being a being somebody who may not understand or they can't say you don't know what it's like. So I've just been blessed with so many opportunities to network with other people, community organizers, other activists, other entrepreneurs, other authors, other people in the field of publishing and coaching and writing, and it's unbelievable.
Yes, indeed, man. It's always great to be talking with kids and speaking with kids, especially when you dress closer to them in terms of not coming in with the full suit like you're going to church. Because I learned that lesson a while ago. One time I went to school and dressed up in a suit, like yeah, yeah. It was definitely a lesson learned, and the good thing about kids is the fact that they don't have filters. They don't have filters, and that's actually it can be a bad thing in some regard, but it's still mostly a good thing because you're going to get that raw honesty that a lot of folks don't like to give when they get to a certain phase in adulthood, just to keep a fronts. So yeah, man. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So since this ain't your first rodeo and you've been here before, man, is there a question that you wish other interviewers would ask you more often when you're doing shows like these, man?
Well, it's not so much of questions that I expect from others. I definitely have a lot of questions for a lot of the listeners and for a lot of the people that follow my work and that a lot of my readers that follow what I do. My biggest question would definitely be in terms of family values and what it means to have a strong faith-based family and what it means to have a family um, that is really supportive and understanding towards each other. Parents that understand their children and respect their children, and children that respect and value their parents, and just creating healthy relationships between both the parents and the children. I definitely feel like when it comes to mothers and sons or fathers and sons, I definitely feel like there's a double standard between daughters and mothers and fathers and daughters in terms of how the relationship is when it comes to whether or not it's healthy or unhealthy. I talk a lot about, because, I was raised by a single mom and, my dad was absent and he struggled with alcoholism. And I talk about, especially in the first book, I talk a lot about how that has affected me, emotionally and in different areas of my life and how I tried to overcompensate and validate myself through academic achievements and through academic success. So I definitely feel like a lot of times the single parents um, are held to a higher standard, much more than the absent parents. And I feel like when it comes to raising a child to be the best person that they could be, um, especially as a single parent, I feel like a lot of the single parents they don't get enough credit for it, and I feel like a lot of times the absent parents aren't held accountable for being absent and for not doing the work, the legwork when it comes to raising their children. And because I was raised successfully, and because I was, and I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I definitely feel like, because I'm a young black man that is doing great things, I feel like a lot of people just have a lot of superstitions and they raise suspicions about, my mom and my for being a single mother and for me just turning out to be great because, I've never been to jail, I've never gotten suspended from school, I've never used drugs, I don't use drugs, I don't drink, I don't do any of the stuff that a lot of people believe that young black men do because of all the stereotypes and all of the false narratives. So I'm not sure why people give single parents a hard time when there are a lot of absent parents out there that are not doing the work. But I guess I can ask you because I mean I can't really talk to my listeners, but um, I would just like to know your thoughts on that. Just because I know you talk a lot about your parents being very supportive of you because you have family that's very supportive as well.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. Yes, indeed. And it's better when you have both parents actually active in a child's life because with the single parent themselves, it it's funny enough. It's almost every time it's hard because well, parenting's hard enough as it is, but a single parent it's even harder because you're the sole protector, breadwinner, and trying to make sure you have enough funding to feed both you and the child or children. And you also kind of have to have multiple personalities because you have to be disciplinarian from time to time and also be the nurturer. And sometimes, like, all right, it's like, all right, we want to hug the wonderful little one and want to care for them. And then it's like, all right, if they screw up in class or they make a scene and they get called from work in the middle of the day because one of the kids wanted to act out to get more attention, they have to deal with that. And it's really just a tough job. I mean, I'm personally not a fan of single parenthood, and because of the fact that it's already hard enough to parent a child, let alone multiple kids, and the fact that if it can be avoided, it's best to be avoided. But nowadays, it's once you make a decision, it's like, all right, you got to basically manage that decision and see how you can best navigate yourself through that. And with your wonderful moms, kudos to both you and her because it looks like so far things have happened on the good end and on a good front. And we need more of that nowadays because one guy who was, I think it was Eric Thomas. Yep, Eric Thomas. He was in a household, and I believe he had a single mom. I believe he had a single mom as well, if I'm remembering the story right. And he is a major success as a motivational speaker and a trainer right now. And he is one heck of a powerful guy. So there's examples of folks who come from households where they had a single parent and they turned out a-okay. So it can still happen. Like it's not like a death sentence. Like, hey, your kids are gonna be horrible, bad off if you're raised by a single parent. But no, it's not gonna always be that way. Success can still happen for those who were raised by single parents. I'm just saying it's not the most advantageous route, and it's best to try to avoid it beforehand if you can. But hey, it's like it's a good thing to recognize and really support, if possible, those who are single parents and give them the help that they need, and also encourage them to really raise the best child that they can raise.
And like I said, I definitely appreciate your input. And I was asking that because some of the things that I've experienced from people and what they've actually said to me, and a lot of the things that I see, every day. A lot of the stories that I hear every day, and even with my own personal experience and the experience of others. I ask that because like I said, I was raised by a single mom. She has a successful career, and I mean, words cannot express how proud she is of me and all of the work that I'm doing. And I feel like she is a shining example of, what it means to be a single parent and a hardworking parent. And a lot of people treat single parenthood as the most difficult thing in the world, or and I know that it's not the ideal situation that people end up in, but a lot of people feel like a lot of people don't I feel like they don't really have a lot of respect for single parents, people who are married, or married couples who have children. I feel like a lot of them don't have a lot of respect for single parents because they don't understand what it means to struggle because they have someone to help them. And I definitely feel like there needs to be more support and appreciation for that, and that's why I address that. But book number three is definitely going to address more about family values and what it means to have faith and what it means to create unity in a community. And that's why I've definitely been hearing a lot of other stories of people from different backgrounds and how we can all come together because of all of the things that you hear in the media all the time. I definitely feel like um, book number three that I'm writing, it just, like I said, it there are many dimensions um, when you talk about bringing a community together, or when you have a conversation about things related to reconciliation. There are several dimensions you have to dive into, and that's why writing the third book, it's very difficult. I mean, it's fun, but it's very difficult because I want to make sure that I address everything and anything as possible, anything that is related to family values, anything that brings the community together, anything that talks about love, which is what I feel like everybody needs, every community needs. I definitely think that's very much needed. I'm hoping that everybody can purchase the second one, so that they can really generate thoughts um, about the things that discuss.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Because need folks to think out there. Because a lot of folks don't want to think. And funny enough, a lot of people are doing some pseudo thinking out there where they hear conspiracy theory and they don't do any true research besides the first page of Google and realize, oh man, I have the truth now. It's time to put on my tinfoil kufi. Like the government is doing this, they're doing that, and they got this nonsense out there, this virus and everything else. They're trying to take over the world, new world order. Uh, yeah, like, okay, if all that's true, it's like, then what? It's like, all right, cool. Like, if that's actually true, then what next? What are we gonna do after that? And just realizing, all right, do some thinking and then take some actual action on what you're thinking if it's gonna do some good for the people and yourself and your community. Because a lot of folks need to actually think, then do, and make sure they keep doing if it benefits themselves and their respective communities. Indeed, I appreciate that, man. Appreciate that, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, for those who want to keep in magical contact with you, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you, man?
Well, I'm available on all social media platforms. So Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I'm at Nelson E. Brown or Nelson Brown. I go by both of those names. And my books are on Amazon. They're available in a paperback and ebook format if anyone wants to purchase them. I'm definitely available via email as well. So at brownnelsone@gmail.com. I usually answer my emails right away and as quickly as possible. So if anybody wants to shoot me an email and contact me directly, they can do that. And I encourage people to continue to follow my work. And like I said, with Awesome God Radio on Tuesday, September 8th, 2020, from 6 to 7 p.m., that's when my radio show, my talk show will debut. Um, I just want to have I for that show, I'm just going to talk all about what my show will consist of and what my work is all about. So that's what's going to be in the first show. And it's definitely going to give me an opportunity, and like I said earlier on, to just talk about things from a young black man's perspective. And the things I'll discuss on my show are related to financial literacy, family values, education, mental illness, how to fight against toxic masculinity in today's culture, and just all of the things that I feel like young people need to listen to and hear about, because a lot of young people don't really understand how to navigate through a lot of things in life because we are pressured to succeed, but we aren't really taught as much how to outside of the day-to-day lessons that we learn in school all the time. So I definitely feel like people need to tune in so that they can hear what a young black man has to say on behalf of all of the other young black men that are scared to take that leap of faith or that step of faith. Because throughout the media, a lot of young black men don't really have any platform to discuss a lot of things that I'm discussing now. You maybe have like a handful amongst a lot of people in the fields of broadcast journalism or in mass communications. A lot of them are, I mean, a lot of the broadcasters and a lot of the journalists, most of them are not young black men. Most of them are, people who are not of color and people who are Caucasian. So I definitely think that to bridge, build that bridge between each and every culture, regardless of what color you are or with ethnicity or nationality you identify with, I feel like we can all relate to each other on some level and we can all learn from each other because we're all still on this journey called life together. Um, so I'm definitely excited to share about the fact that I started out working for the state at 17 years old and how, I established a self-publishing business at 19 years old and how I won for Author of the Year at 20 years old last year and how I am starting, um, I'm starting, my radio show this year and just there are so many things. My clothing line, from last year, there are so many things that I have to share and I'm very eager to do it. Um, and I still continue to lean on faith. I still continue to pray about everything, and I still continue to, jot my thoughts down. I write down prayers. I write down more poems. I write down my thoughts, um, and it's definitely like therapeutic for me. That's what I learned when I went to therapy, back in high school. Different ways I can express myself and relieve a lot of the things that I may be dealing with or maybe struggling with. So I'm definitely excited to see where that goes. And I have all my guests booked, and you're going to be one of the guests. I just have to figure out how I can squeeze you in somewhere because I know you have a lot to offer as well.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about. Woohoo! So there you have it, folks. Go out there, find my man Nelson on all the social media platforms. Head over to Amazon, buy both of his books. You can buy them both in ebook, paperback, or buy one each, one paperback, one ebook, or both. And be on the lookout for that man's show on Awesome God Radio the day after Labor Day. So for my folks in labor, you get to be out of labor the day after and tune in. Yes, indeed. Tune in so that way you can win, my friends. Tune in so you can win. So any parting words for the folks still listening, my man?
Some of the last things I would like to say, I would definitely like to thank all of the people who have supported my work since the very beginning. Since 2018, I introduced myself to the world, not knowing what to expect from a lot of the readers. I definitely appreciate everybody who is willing to think about how men wear pain, how young men struggle with things, how they deal with insecurities, and how we can combat, the culture filled with toxic masculinity, and how we are able to, embrace each other in our deepest need and pain. And all of this is about authenticity. All of it is about transparency. All of the things that I do between the radio show, between all of the books, and between even more things I have in store. I want to expand my publishing business. My plan is once I buy my home, turn my small self publishing business from a sole proprietorship to an LLC, So I can give other people an opportunity to publish their work, and so that they can share it with the world. And I can open that door for others to express themselves and to make a difference and to start changing the way that people think. I want to coach others and become a motivational speaker like you, and leave a lasting impact on the people that I continue to minister to, in a sense, and to use my story and my platform to help. So I just encourage you all to continue to follow my work. Like I said, shoot me a direct email at brownnelsone@gmail.com, or follow me on all of the social media platforms from LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Nelson Brown or Nelson E. Brown.
Hey there, buddy. Looks like you made it to the end of this episode. Since you made it to the end of this episode, do both of us a favor and stop being greedy. Stop it right now and share this episode with your friends and your fellow podcast lovers, especially those who have book clubs and want to listen to the authors who write some amazing books. Be sure to check out the rest of the backlog too while you're at it, and share all those too.